Welcome everybody to another Simon on the Sofa. Yes, indeed. If you're noticing, there is a little picture up with a cool drawing of me as a pen head. Inviting you over to Patreon. Patreon is now this awesome platform that is allowing, I don't like to say fans, but the people that love to and benefit from these conversations and want to see them continue. If you head over to patreon.com, Simon on the Sofa, you can watch a short 3-minute video there. And then from there, you can see what I'm up to with Patreon. But basically, in a nutshell, Patreon is just a way that we can now fund, content creators can now fund their creativity, and you, the viewers, can be part of the co-creation of whatever's needed in order to make that project continue. So it's a really awesome platform. And here I am today. For some of you, if you're with us live, then you will know that today is with somebody who I sat with on the sofa. We were just talking before we went about to go live, and we said it must be about 5 years or something like that. And I know there's this whole thing around time, time's flying, and whenever you get older, I remember when I was younger, people used to say, wait till you get older, time flies, boy. And I used to go, what? What do you mean? I'm just a young, wild, free, and I don't care about that. And then when you get older, whatever old means, you go, man, those times fly by. So anyway, here I am. I want to welcome to Simon on the Sofa for the second time on this. This time we're not next to each other, but we are here in different parts of the globe. Welcome, Chris Walton.
Thank you, Simon. It's a pleasure to see you again, pleasure to speak to you again, and looking forward to another Simon on the Sofa chat. Yes,
likewise. So for all of you out there, if you haven't looked at any of the videos about Chris, I met Chris because he's, you could say, how could I describe you best? What I loved about you when we first met is it wasn't about challenging me, but you heard the word transparent communication on something I posted, and the message you sent me was really just upfront, and it was transparent in itself. And it just said, hey, I hear a lot of people talking about transparent communication, but I want to chew the cud with you. Let's meet up. I want to know how transparent you are, right? What does it mean? And do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And then we got together, which was beautiful, and we just shared this lovely conversation. And at the time, and I know you've been doing this for a long time, but you was exploring just, the mind-body connection, and we spoke about a lot of things. We spoke about transparency, how it can show up, how it can't show up. Then we went into the mind. This is an area that you've been exploring for a long time, and how we can really look at our mind-body connection. I remember us speaking about a lot of different things, and for the viewers, we don't need to go over that today. They can go back and listen to that talk. But you've obviously 5 years moved on. So what I'd love you to do, Chris, just for people that don't know of you, maybe that haven't heard of you before, maybe just give us a little why you're here tonight, and also maybe a little backstory about what's brought you to a little bit of your life story, just to kick off the conversation, if you're happy with that.
Yeah, okay. Oh man, where to start with that sort of thing? Well, for the ones that don't know me and all that, as you know, someone my work is as a performance psychologist, and what I'm most interested in is helping people change. I work in private practice. I have online programs, and I do corporate training stuff. Things I've been doing for a long time. What I'm most interested in is, as you mentioned, the mind-body connection. Consciousness itself and altered states of consciousness has been an exciting area of exploration for me, both in theory and practice over the years. And really, on a physical day-to-day level, when I'm seeing people every week, what I'm interested in is how we can get people to change, move away from the stresses, eliminate the stresses, update the circuits of the mind, start to awaken to higher levels of potential. I'm really interested in making that as accessible to as many people as possible. And, personally, I'm a consciousness explorer. I like to know what's going on in the brain, but the brain's not that exciting. But consciousness is exciting, exploring consciousness and what it is and what that means to us and who we are and what's going on and what the hell's life about. The bigger topics, the bigger, subjects, that's what, really fires my engine, And, I put some of that in my book. The sort of second half of my book builds into the more heavy duty stuff. But yeah, so that's a quick overview.
Nice, no, that's lovely, thank you. And so with that, let's just Yeah. So is this something that's been growing? Have you always been curious? Was you curious as a young boy, and you know, what, just give us a little seed of like what got you into it? Did you have a shift in consciousness? Did you have a shift in awareness? Just a little bit of what got you really stoked. And I can see it in your eyes and your energy, and so pumped about these, you know, these bigger questions.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Being able to look where you are in your life and look back and look at the specific instances which took you on a specific path, you know, and you think like sometimes, how the hell did that happen, man? I mean, you know, what the hell happened there? And then what happened here? And you're like, wow, you know, wow, you know. But the biggest shift for me, the first big shift for me was when I was 30. And this is what really got me interested. You know, I worked in the health and fitness industry for 10 years, from 91 to 2001. And so that's from when I was 21 to 31. You know,
we got lost him a little bit there. Just
been into fitness and health.
Wait there, slow down. Chris, we lost you. We're going to go back. We're going to go back to lovely. It just went from 21 to 31, and then it's all yours.
All right. Yeah, and so sort of the mid-90s through the back end of the 90s, I started getting interested in personal development stuff, you know, how the mind is affecting the body. You know, I was doing a lot of personal training at the time. I was managing a health club, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, when I was 30, I went away on this retreat through a range of synchronistic events. I ended up on this retreat in the States. And the idea of this retreat was to prove to yourself that you are more than your physical body.
Right.
Well, I'd done a lot of physical development, man. I was buff, I was lean, I was fit, I was strong, you know, I was a 30-year-old animal, you know, full of testosterone and all that. And I had a really nice life. I had, you know, a house and a job down the road, you know, all that going on. And things, you know, things were working well. I was enjoying myself, you know. I was
Oh, wow. I hope we don't have the constant cutting out. Let's see.
Happy.
Wait. Yeah. Carry on. You were happy. That's good. That's enough. Continue from there.
Yeah. So on this retreat, of which the goal of this retreat was to prove to yourself that you are more than your physical body. And we were using specific advanced sound technology meditations. We do about 6 of these a day in soundproof booths. So we've got these guided meditations as a group in soundproof booths that alter your brain frequencies and stuff, and therefore alter your consciousness states. And about the 5th day into the program, I had a very clean, you know, out-of-body experience. So I found myself, if you like, in the booths that we were sleeping in. If you can imagine like a bunk bed with like a just covered all around in black, so no information, no signals can come in and no signals go out. That's what it was sort of like. And I found myself on top of this booth looking down at Chris as the physical Chris, you know, so my consciousness had left the body, looking down at Chris with the headphones on with his eyes closed like that. And it wasn't like a hallucination or a dream or you know, something like that. It was a very different quality of consciousness. And it lasted somewhere between, like, hard to say, you know, like maybe 6 to 12 seconds, something like that. And then when there was sort of like a realization of the 2 levels of Chris. And then when I realized that I was looking down at myself, then a fear response kicked in the physical Chris, you know, and I landed, like it was like I landed back in my body and came sort of, you know, jolted back to sort of conscious awareness, took my headphones off, pulled my my legs out the bed, you know, and pulled the sheet back, and I'm just like, holy shit, you know, whoa. And that was a big shift, because then I realized, whoa, oh my God, man, consciousness is not just in the head, it's not just in the body. We are not just in the head, we're not just in the body, you know. Consciousness is outside. To this retreat for 7 more weeks over 4 years, and then I ended up going down to South America 3 times, to Peru and Brazil twice, doing all the shamanic stuff down there and getting involved with that. And a real journey of exploring consciousness, but it was kicked off, you know, it really started from that initial, like, paradigm shift, you know. And
yeah.
So, you know, that's really what I'm interested in, exploring that and understanding how we can bring the potentials that I saw in all of these experiences that I've had over the years, how we can bring that into the physical world, you know, and do something with it other than just talking about good stories and fantasizing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Bring some new information into the world through the physicalness into the world. So that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. It's always nice. It's always nice just to get a little backstory and a little understanding, and people to connect into the person, because I think what our conversation tonight is about, which you instigated, and for everybody listening, Chris, really, when he said, should we sit on the sofa again? It was like, what do we want to do? Because of course, like you just said, we can talk about anything at any time, and that's fine. But how do these conversations really have an impact on you, the viewer, and the greater consciousness, the greater our state of evolution? How do we move ourselves out of one state of being? And Chris and I have both personally had altered states of consciousness. Both, well, I've had them on drugs and in natural states. And that's really what stoked me to be creating these conversations now, because I am really interested in the conversation that gives people the opportunity to shift their perspective, to have almost a peak experience, as Carl Jung might say, is how we can really move out of our maybe limited, conditioned way of viewing ourselves and reality, and how can we actually step into a greater awareness. And I think, Chris, I'm just going to read out the questions that we sort of proposed to people on this call, if you're happy with that. And then we can dive into a little bit of that to really give the juice of what we're pointing to today. Because Chris really brought up, what is going on in the personal development world. It's okay saying we can create our reality, or we can make a difference in the world, we can become the change we want to see, etc., etc. But how true is it? And some of the questions that we've been proposing is, for example, is the law of attraction really real? Can we create anything we want? Or is that just BS? Is the personal development industry leading us in the wrong direction? What really gets us to change? What's the key elements that really get us to change? And obviously you've heard already that Chris is really inspired by consciousness. So is it just the biggest mystery in the world? And I love what Chris wrote on one of the things. You create your own reality. Okay, great. That's all great. And it sounds good in theory and good on text. But what does this actually mean? How much of reality are we really creating? How much influence do we really have to bring to things from an idea, desire, intention actually into the physical world? Or is it, again, just marketing BS? Because if I want to sell my 7-day program, or I want to sell my book, or I want to promote something that I'm also utilizing in order to make money in the world, what do I have to make it sound good? So there's always these catchphrases that can make something sound great, like you can create your reality, etc., etc. So one of the things that I want to just say before you dive in there, Chris, and give a little bit of talk to any of those things that pop up, because I know that they're sort of all interconnected. Am I right? They're all interwoven.
Yeah.
So I know that what we talk about tonight covers sort of all of those questions, but it was a nice way that you was delivering them. And I think that what I want to say is that I've been on I'm all about self-development, if you want to call it that. I'm all about, as you know, reading the books. I mean, one of the books I read of yours, Incredible You, that time, again, it was like this deeper ways of looking at how the human psyche works, how's the brain work. I was into fitness just like you still am. I do yoga. Look, I even got, I got my four books at the moment that I'm enjoying. And, these books here are about, daring to be great, being the greatest you can. What's your motivation, etc., etc. So I know that personal development or self-development or ascension or whatever you want to call it is something that's tangible. But I do know that people are struggling out there, Chris, because they get caught up in, these myths. They get caught up in the idea that I can just sit at home and maybe things are going to change because I've read a book, or et cetera, et cetera. And I know so many people that are really struggling with a lot of these concepts. So maybe I'll leave it there for you, and let's just dive into whatever's coming up for you.
All right, cool. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the thing is, I base what I say and what I'm going to say on obviously my experience, of learning, of looking at science, of reading science, of understanding all that sort of area, and of personal experience. And I don't think you can, get much better than your personal experience and being completely honest with yourself, and real, true and honest, your personal experience. If you can't be that with yourself, there's something missing there. And I initiated this call, as I know we've kept in touch and stuff, but we don't see each other or speak regularly or anything. But I remember, I I guess about 6 to 12 months ago, I started looking more and more, you know, the personal development industry and the outrageous claims that were being said and the marketing hype. And I just thought, man, you know what? This industry's gone mad, you know, it's gone completely mad. I thought, I should, you know, maybe I'll do a video about this. And then I thought, Simon would be a good guy to talk with about this. You know, he's into transparent conversations. Let's do that, you know, that'd be a fun thing to do. And obviously I know you're well into development stuff. So that's how it popped into my mind. But I think what we'll do, like what popping into my mind is, let's just target this law of attraction business, right? This is my opinion, obviously. So you might remember back 2004, the film comes out, What the Bleep Do We Know? Remember that movie?
Very well.
Yeah, great movie, man. Like groundbreaking movie, in my opinion. Great visuals, story, you know, great scientists with great credibility, not fluffy guru marketing types, proper heavy duty scientists, you know. I thought it was a tremendous film that really could open you up when you start to think. And it opened up to the potential, the understanding of, are we creating our own reality? Is our consciousness, our thoughts, our feelings, are we creating that reality, right? So you're like, yeah, wow, you know, it starts to open you up a little bit. And you know, then some years later, or like 3-4 years later or something, then the movie The Secret comes out, right? Which is like a watered down version of What the Bleep, you know, The Secret. So already it's like, ooh, what's the secret? You know, what's this secret then? And then it's a little watered down, still a good little movie, you know, positive movie, you know, inspiring movie, nice to watch, gives you a bit of a perk up. But, you know, it's a little bit watered down, and it's a little bit like, you know, the one guy on that movie goes, you know, okay, so, you know, just visualize and feel and think that you're going to get $25,000 come to you. Don't know how, you don't know why, it's just going to come to you. Just intend it and let the universe bring it to you, you know, and you're like, yeah, that's fantastic. Let's do that, man. I'm in, you know, like, and you're like, well, yeah, let's do it, you know. And so there's a lot of claims, a lot of big claims. But since these movies have come out, it just seems the industry within itself seems to have developed 1,001 experts, you know, and full with so many outrageous claims and lies. And for me, as a practitioner, as somebody that sees people every week, you know, one-to-one every week, which I've done for, you know, many years, you know, I see what's coming. No big, you know, traumas and, you know, things, but people with normal stuff, normal life, normal people that have just got things that are going on that are not helping them, that they need to remove their stresses, their outdated thinking patterns and all that, right? So, you know, there it is. So this notion then of creating your own reality, I create my own reality, right? That's the big thing that kicked all this off, because it's exciting. Firstly, it's like, yes, if I create my own reality, then I can create anything. All right, then cool. So that's sort of, you know, which got me going on that. So I thought, you know, we were going to talk about this. So I printed off right here. I printed off some headlines from live websites today that are all related about law of attraction and creating your own reality. These are headlines of people that are selling you products, right? Now, I'm not going to call out the names or anything like that. I'm not interested in that. But this is my favorite one. I'm going to give you my favorite one. Well, there's so many here. Here we go, right? Activate your higher abundance with revolutionary technology that infuses your brain with 10 years worth of success programming.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't stop there. This is the same headline. The law of attraction requires hard work, but what if you could automate it all? What if you discovered this revolutionary technology that automates it so that you can finally enjoy the money, the health, the relationships, and the body you deserve without effort? Wow, man, I'm in, dude. I am in. Give me that without effort. Automate it all. Give me 10 years worth of success programming. Simon, man, I'm in. I'm in. I don't care what it costs. All right. The next one, right? The secret prayer, a 3-step formula for attracting miracles. Again, it's secret and it's a prayer. Woo. And it'll let you attract a miracle, right? Blah, blah, blah. This one's my favorite, though. Here it is. This is live today on our website, man. I'm about to give you the lazy person's secret that will literally force the universe to give you anything you want. Man, dude, I typed off I copied off 2 pages. I could keep going, right? But the thing is,
read one more. I want to hear one more.
oh, I'm glad you made me do that. Right. Just listen to these tracks and you will attract all your desires in 5 minutes a day, even if you listen to them when you're asleep. Now, you know what, Simon, right? Now, this is funny. We should laugh at this because it's hysterical, right?
Yeah, but it's hysterical, but we can take a moment, and there's a seriousness in this, right? So go on, carry on.
Yeah. These are from the so-called one of the leading publishers of personal development authors and teachers today. You know, these are not from little small fries. These are, you know, they've got a lot of money behind them. They've got a lot of marketing behind them, you know. Now, let's just be, you know, level about it, right? We're in a world that's full of sensationalism, where we're bombarded with marketing messages, where we're just bombarded with information all the time. For most part, most people, probably not where you're living now, but certainly, you know, I just moved out of London, and everybody there's, the brain's mush, man. You know what that's like, you live there. You know, for most people, your brains are mush. You're so busy, so much going on, right? So you have to, you know, that newspapers wouldn't sell anything if they just had boring headlines. Neither would magazines. So, you know, the marketing acronym, you know, create attention and then interest and then desire and then action, right? So you have to have these big headlines, giving it the big one. All right, fair enough, you know. But I think when it comes to personal development and somebody's mental and emotional health, I think that's cruel, man. But firstly, it's obviously bullshit. You know, if you think that's real, then whoa, geez, you know, come on, let's be real. So let's come back to then, okay, creating your own reality. I create my own reality. What does this mean? So this is the way I see it. Firstly, where did that statement come from? Who brought that into the world? I tell you where it came from. It came from the physicist Fred Alan Wolf back in the 70s. He was, you know, doing his research into physics, like all these dudes, these quantum physicists, and, you know, getting involved and whatever his specific area of research. But he came out with this notion of, well, we create our own reality. And then, you know, many moons later, that has been taken, because that guy was in that What the Bleep film, you know, he was in that film. The marketing machine, the marketing gurus, the so-called personal development gurus have taken that, and of course it's sort of a bit of a backup in the film, going, right, well, you are creating your reality. You are creating your reality. But we say, well, there's a couple of things there. Well, how much of my reality am I creating, you know? But like, what you mean, like, I'm looking at the moon and I'm creating the moon. I'm creating the solar system. My thoughts and feelings will influence how they will move and change. What? Like, I'm that powerful, you know? Of course not. You know, we are physical human beings on one level, and we are spiritual or energetic, however you want to call it, you know. There's no separation. It's just levels, as you know, in the science term, you know, levels of frequency, you know. And we're in this physical world with a physical body of which we've got a finite time, you know. So we're also embedded deeply in systems. You know, we're embedded in a system of family, of friends, of culture, of geographical location, you know, of race, of country, of, you know, area. We're in a whole embedded, you know, cluster of systems, of which those systems are playing out no matter what me and you do. You know, we can get 7 billion people and pray and intend that the moon's going to, you know, turn round or move a little bit more than it does. That ain't going to happen, is it? We're in systems, man, you know. So it's like, I always think of it like this. You've really got into the law of attraction. You've really got your head on about, I create my own reality, right? And there's 4 of you separately that have been doing that, and you're really into it, and you're visualizing, and you're feeling like you've got it, and all that sort of stuff. And then the 4 of you one day come up to a set of traffic lights, and there's 4 traffic lights, and they're all on red. But as you're all driving up to them, you're all going, I intend now for that to turn green. I intend for that to turn green. Well, there's 4 traffic lights and 4 different cars and 4 different directions. Only one of those traffic lights is going to turn green. You know what I mean? Only one. It doesn't matter what you're intending. Only one of them is going to turn. Are you influencing that? Well, maybe, but in honesty, doubtful. You know what I mean? Doubtful. So whilst we've got this, I create my own reality, you know, there's so much more going on in reality.
Wait there. Bear with us.
Reality that happens. Like, it's cool when you're like creating all the good stuff. Man, I'm on a roll, man. I'm earning money. I'm in love. My house is rocking. My business is flying. I'm really happy. Oh, I'm creating the show. But what happens when it doesn't go so well? You know, life's life, and you get your ups and downs. You get your bumps and your knocks. You get your learnings and your lessons, you know. Are you creating all that as well? So I just think that whole thing has been taken out of context so much that it's deceiving people and fooling people. Yes, you have power. Of course you do. Yes, your intentions are power. Let's talk about this a bit later. Yes, your thoughts and feelings, your consciousness has power. But, you know, get clear. The other thing on with this is, it comes back to that, yeah, but who's the you that's creating the reality? And this is where I think the biggest mistake is, because the you that's creating the reality is the consciousness, the pure consciousness you, that part of you that you're entangled with. That's where everything comes from, you know? Everything's coming from consciousness, from that field of consciousness, or the matrix, or the 0 point field, or the energy field, or God, or whatever word you want to use, or oneness. Everything's coming from that initial intelligence. Consciousness is the way I see it, you know, experience it. So everything's coming from that. So therefore, yes, you are creating your own reality, but not, you know, little, you know, individual physical Simon. You're not creating me. I'm here, dude. Really, I'm here. It's not hallucination. I'm a physical being, and vice versa. You know. So there's a couple of elements there. One is everything's created by you, the consciousness, the oneness, because everything comes from consciousness. So that's really what Fred Alan Wolf, the physicist, meant. And I know that because I asked him 3 weeks ago by email. Funnily enough, because I knew we were going to come up to this. I thought, you know, before I'm, you know, say what I want to say, I want to absolutely clarify. But I knew that because in 2005 I did a workshop with him in Seattle, and he went over that. So I knew that back then. You know, this is what it means. Consciousness you is creating the reality, everything. Right. But then that's consciousness. The physical you has an impact, and of course you've got a life which you can do your best, you know, you can. But to say that you, the physical you, with your thoughts, your feelings, you know, you're going to bring your 25 grand through the door and bring your Rolls Royce outside and all that, you know, is, for me, is a little bit deceiving and inaccurate.
Awesome. Okay. There's a lot there.
There's a lot there, man. I went off on a bit of a roll, yeah.
It's okay. You're a passionate, expressive man. So
yeah.
So the key is, or what's coming up for me is, so there seems to be that there's an aspect of creation that we all are a part of. Yeah, that's what you're pointing to, right? So we're all, there's this sense of, like we said, whatever you've already described it, whatever you want to name it, there's a sense that we are creation. All of creation is happening all at once, and like you just said, you know, wars going off right now and kids are getting killed in the other world, but you and I are not creating that, even though that's happening on the news right now. Yeah. Deforestation is getting ripped apart right now, and you and I are not saying today, hey, I want to create deforestation in my reality. And you know, women are being raped right now, and pedophiles are raping kids, and we're not saying, you and I are not saying today, hey, I actually want, you know, I want pedophiles to rape kids today, right? You and I are not bringing that into our reality, but that's happening regardless, yeah? So what I took away from what you just shared, which was lovely, is often what people feel when they get caught up in all this self-development, which is let's just be real here and say that this is a multi-billion-pound industry, and it's driven by the need for people to be getting, like you beautifully said, big headlines, big results. Otherwise, it's in a competitive market of a consciousness that is still driven from more for me is less for you, greed mentality, etc., etc. So we're entering into a realm, whether it's about fitness or consciousness or spiritualism or anything, everyone is falling into this world of competitiveness, which is actually, or I'm taking from this, tell me if I'm digressing, but it's diluting the facts, almost like a Chinese whisper, to what is actually people are actually saying. And people are not even having the time to do research, not even to the extent that you've done research, and even meet people that have even maybe brought these theories forward to actually ascertain or understand what they really mean. And, you know, people just don't have the time for that, not in your day-to-day reality that we're experiencing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So for me, one of the things that comes up for me in my experience so far with the personal development is the power of intention, and the power that through words, thoughts, and actions we do create our our day-to-day reality and the way that we interact, the way we experience life, the way we choose to react or respond, the way that we choose to lie or choose to tell the truth. You know, we get these choices, which in turn do create our reality as we are living it. So, for example, I can look out the window and I can see the fat person, and I can judge them and condemn them and call them, you know, put them in a box that I dislike them, or I can open my heart and compassion and see them for who they really are beyond the identity that they seem to have adopted. And then I can actually change the way that I view them, and my reality changes in the way that I view things, right?
Sure.
And the way,
Exactly
and the way that I interact with life. And so, you know, I can condemn everyone that's killing and murdering, and I can get caught up in a whole heap of protesting and suffering and maybe even go to war myself. Or I can view it from, you know, what can I bring to this world in terms of me being one cell. I normally call it one cell of either contribution to the cure or contribution to the cause of the suffering, right? That's like how I look at myself. I see myself as like, I'm either a healing cell. If I think of cancer as being an organism that's spreading a virus in the planet, I think of myself, well, my 60 billion cells that make up one cell, I can choose to be a healing cell or a cell of, you know, violence and suffering. And I just want to say to you as well, before you jump onto anything I've shared, when you said it's not right, I would actually go as far as using the word violence. And I know you said like maybe they can, maybe they can't. I think that this type of marketing, this type of messaging, this type of not giving people, you know, our fellow human species really the opportunity to have a real free will choice, I think is violence. I think it's manipulation, it's violence, it's leading people down the wrong path, and so on. So yeah, so I just wanted to bring it into that. I know you're going to touch on this later, I'm sure, as well, but bring it into people want to change. Change is constant. Evolution is opening us up to things that we never thought that we would even be able to experience. And we're talking definitely from a state of awareness, the way that the technology has opened up our ability to connect and see things. You know, the identity of who we are as a human, so-called human being, this sort of individual thing has changed dramatically. I mean, I don't even really look out in the world anymore and think that I'm viewing human beings. You know, I see things very, very differently and on many different layers. So maybe just talk to whatever's coming up there. I don't know if I've lost. I don't think I've lost us. I just know it's such a big topic. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a big topic, and there's lots of tangents you can always go off on. I like to keep it simple. You know, I like to keep my development and the people that I work with development. I like to keep development simple. I think what you said at the start of that was very relevant. You know, going on to what are we creating? It's like absolutely. You know, like you mentioned your example, you can look out the street and see a fat person, and you can judge them and call them, you know, in your own internal dialogue, which creates a set of chemistry in the body, which therefore creates the next how you feel in the next interactions and movements that you take. Where you can look at that person, see them as a fellow human being doing their thing with a history, a personal history which you've got no idea about, and they're a soul on the planet doing their thing. Who knows what they're doing? And then that creates a different set of chemistry in your body. And then your next set of actions and thoughts and feelings, you feel nicer. You know, so in that respect, you're creating your reality every second of every day. But that's because you are controlling the things that you've got control of, your emotions, your thoughts, and your actions. You know, if you're aware enough, you know, you've obviously got to have a level of awareness to not just be an autopilot machine. So then, you know, absolutely, you know, what are you really got control of? What do you really have that you can create? You can create the way you feel, the way you perceive, the way you think, and what you do. That's, you know, when you delve into it, and most people have to do a little bit of work, a little bit of inner work to clear out their old programming and stuff. So that's, you know, that's the one thing. I think that, you know, bottom line is, you know, businesses are still, it's you know, businesses are set up for profit. There's nothing wrong with, you know, obviously earning money, and money is just a form of energy, as you know, and all that. So, you know, but I think if everything is driven on survival of the fittest, and the biggest and best and all that win, then that in itself is a belief that's long gone. We need the more competitive instead of the competitive stuff, the collaborative stuff. But development's development. At the end of the day, what do we need to do to develop, to improve ourselves, to enhance ourselves, to awaken ourselves? What really gives you a big bang for the buck, which is very much what I'm interested in. So lots and lots and lots of ways to develop. But if we think of development as horizontal development, and then you've got vertical development, and so most personal development programs and systems are all about horizontal development. So that's good. It's about learning new skills and understanding new information and new systems and things that you can apply to your life, and hopefully, you get better at things and so forth and so on. And you can categorize that in like the types of intelligence that Howard Gardner from Harvard, came out with years ago. There's like 7 intelligences, so you've got your IQ, but you've also got like spatial intelligence and kinesthetic intelligence and musical intelligence, and a whole range of different sort of intelligences that you can, have be good or not so good in that area. And that's all great, it's all horizontal development. And most people in the personal development world do that, get caught in that trap of, well, I'll do that one, then I'll do the next program, 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 then I'll do the next program. It's all cool, it's all fun, it's all fine. I've been there, on the personal development circuit, done every course in the book, through 95 to 2005, everything I could could find, But you're still going horizontal. What's really development's about, or should be about, is expansion of awareness, expansion of consciousness. And that's what vertical development is. So the metaphor would be, if you're going for a walk every day in the park and in the fields and the woods and the forests and stuff, and you go the same walk every day and you're walking and you're familiar with it, it's a nice walk, you see the squirrels and the birds and people walking the dogs, and you're familiar with the path. It's a nice path, it's a healthy path. But then one day you see a little different sort of path going through a bush, and then you end up going higher and higher, and it takes you up a bit of a hill, and then you can see how the forest that you were in interlinks and is, the system that it's in with all the other forests and the river and the towns, and you can see how everything works and fits together because you've gone up higher. So that's a little bit more like, developing consciousness and expanding awareness. You go up in levels, and we know there are levels, there are stages. And there are generally, the 3 stages, which we could call the pre-conventional, which is the early, when we're growing up as being a kid and children and everything, and up till we sort of come to adults. And then there's the conventional world, which most of us are in. We live in conventional world, conventional thinking. We tend to potentially believe what comes down the newspaper and on the news, and we're in the conventional world, and we believe what the doctors tell us, and we believe what pharmaceuticals companies tell us, and we believe what the government tells us, or at least we just go along with it, But when you break out of convention and you move into post-convention, post-conventional thinking and meaning-making, then you start to question that. You start to question, like, well, hang on a minute. Is this right? Is this true? Is this honest? Is this good? Does it make sense? Who am I? Am I just a physical person with a lifespan here, and then you start and you end, and that's your lot? You start to question things, and that takes you out of the norm. It takes you out of conventional thinking. But not many people get to that level of, vertical development because, well, for many reasons, But so the majority of the personal development industry is course after another course after another course after another course. All the course is going to give you what you want, more wealth, more health, more happiness, more better relationships. They're going to give you that, But in reality, it doesn't really happen. So the biggest bang for the buck, I think, depending on where you are, because where you are in your stages, you'll need different types of development. Sometimes you don't want to do anything. Sometimes you want to smoke a joint and eat some chocolate and you feel great. Things that people really need to do are eliminate the stress, the psychological and emotional stress, the reoccurring themes. We all have stress, psychological, emotional stress. We all have worries, doubts and fears. All of us have that, no matter what sort of, we pretend that we've not, or give it the big one. At some degree or another, we've all got worries, fears, doubts, concerns, and all that stuff. The reoccurring themes that you have, you want to eliminate. You want to clear those from your brain and nervous system, because they're doing you no good. They're limiting you mentally, and they're unhealthy physically. You also want to look at your belief systems. Look at what do you really believe in all these areas, because as you know, and as we all know, they're into development. But our beliefs create the perceptions, they create the chemistry, they control our actions, our thoughts, what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about others, what we believe about the world, what we believe about what we can achieve. Obviously, having a deep down sense of belief in a lot of areas of your life is important. And then, obviously, beliefs come in layers and levels as well. So, clearing the emotional stress.
He disappeared. He's coming back.
And no, eliminating those remaining things that
wait there, Chris. Chris. Right there. Take a breather. We lost you there. So yeah, but I think this is just slow down a little bit here, because it's key. It's key that for people listening as well.
All right.
Yeah, it's key. It's key because when we start talking about certain systems and programs, and obviously everything we're putting out there, if you have a belief, I have a belief, even if we have a belief that the personal development industry is BS, right? That's a belief, right? That's telling people that there's a certain way of being, etc., etc. So we, and even when we look at the reality from our fears and stresses and all this stuff, it seems to be that the world is becoming more stressed, or it's definitely humans are becoming more stressed. That's what we're noticing. It's what you're noticing. It's what everyone's noticing. And then you're sort of seeing that inner manifested on the outer. Yeah, you're seeing it everywhere. You're seeing it in just all areas of human interaction. Relationships are stressed. 60% of marriages are finishing and crumbling. It's so many systems are falling apart. The monetary systems, become whatever it's become, a complete joke in terms of when you look at it, everyone's in debts and trillions of pounds of debt and nobody knows anything. So that's stressing people out because they don't know whether, the money is even valuable anymore. People are stressed because they might lose their jobs, stressed because they might lose their mortgage, etc., 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 etc. So what you just said there, if we backtrack a little bit and just walk slow there. So you're saying, or if I'm hearing you right, if we eliminate these stresses like the fears, the stresses, the doubts and so on, which are clouding us from the potential of this vertical expansion in our consciousness, in our way of viewing reality.
Yeah.
Then we can potentially move out of the horizontal way of personal development, which seems to, or what you're pointing to, is seeming not only outdated, but really if you look at it on the way that it's out there in this multi-billion industry and so many people doing it, it doesn't seem to be getting the results that you're pointing to. Am I right? I think I might have lost him. I might have lost you there. Are you back? Hello? No, he's gone.
Yeah, so you screen froze.
Okay. I might have lost you there. Connection's good.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So sorry. Yeah. So I was just saying. So in terms of, did you hear up to where I said the vertical and then the horizontal?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I was just bringing that back. If we just talk at the steps through that, and also, am I clear in saying that if we look at how personal development's been laid out, it's not giving the results? Because what I feel that you're more frustrated with, if I use the word frustrated, or it's really triggering you, is that the proclaiming that it's doing something, but clearly it's not. Yeah, is that right? I don't want to put words into your mouth. Is that?
Yeah, well, it's certainly not doing exactly what the headlines are saying that it's doing. I mean, like I say, this is a classic one, the one that
No, don't get this. Don't get distracted, because I want to hold you in that. I want to hold you in that beautiful place you were. So go back to the we want to eliminate the stresses, the fears, and so on.
Yeah.
And the key things that are blocking our
the reoccurring themes, the reoccurring negative themes. Yeah.
Right. So we want to get them out. Do you want to share a little bit about why they're there in the first place? Because some people might go, well, actually, through me overcoming my challenges and my fears is where I get growth. So if we're eliminating them and we're eliminating them out, what are we saying? That because what I always get caught up here, Chris, is we're saying we don't want any of the bad, we want all of the good. Yet people get caught up in the good, and for me, often even this idea of happiness based on material possession, doing good in this society, getting status labels, and all this other stuff. This is just another mask of the what I would term actually the pain body, or the out of line, unhealthy egoic state of consciousness. There's not much unity going on, sharing, caring, and inclusion. But that's I don't want to deviate. I want to know what your main point is of how we can go out of that, like, lie, if you want to call it a lie, or maybe slightly inauthentic way of developing ourselves to a more authentic way. Yeah, is that good?
Yeah, that's good enough. Yeah, yeah, it works. Yeah. Well, I think the key thing is. Well, let me wind back, okay? Let me wind back. I'll try to slow down, so you know, I'll get a little excited.
No problem. Yeah, good.
Right. So the key thing is that what I'm saying is that about the reoccurring themes. So obviously, it's better for all of us if we're good at managing our mind, if we're good at managing our emotions, if we're good at managing our body and managing our energy, right? But when we're working on this emotional level, we know what emotions are like. You know, we've got the happy, the joy, the excited. We've got the lethargy, the depressed, and the despair on the other end of the scale. What I'm saying is that a big bang for your buck is if you've got reoccurring themes of self-doubt, of anxiety, of worry, of fear that are stopping you moving forward, then, and they are reoccurring, you know, self-worth issues, self-esteem issues, confidence issues. Who hasn't? You know, we all have, as I said, we've all got them to some degree or another from our personal history. Now, it's not about removing them so that you haven't learned your lesson. What it's about, you know, from a health perspective is stopping your fight-flight brain, stopping your stress response. So instead of having the despair, the doubt, the lack of confidence, the feeling not good enough, the lack of self-worth, the complete stress, the anger, the resentment on a regular basis, you know, those emotions, we all have them to some degree, but they're not healthy emotions. You know, you don't want to have those on a regular basis. If you do, your programming's screwed, you know. What's triggering you in the environment is creating old past memories that are probably very subconscious that are firing off your fight-flight brain. Now, if you can repattern that and rechange that so that all your past experiences have given you learnings and wisdom and you can think through clearly and therefore make better decisions, then you've got the learning, you've got the lessons. It's not that you're moving away and hiding from the horrible stuff. You've got your learnings, you've got your lessons. But whilst you're still stressed, you can't think clearly, you can't move properly, you can't be healthy if you're constantly stressed. So that's where I'm coming at with that, you know, from basically a mental, physical, emotional health perspective to allow you to awaken to higher centers. Because if you're stressed all the time, your frontal lobe shut off, your fight-flight system's going off all the time, you can't expand into higher states and higher stages of awareness if you're in that. You can't. You know, that's fight-flight. It's primitive survival stuff. You've got to get out of that. You've got to clear that. So that's the one aspect. And then the other aspect that will give you a big bang for your buck, I mean, we'll come on to the things that give you the real bang for the buck. But the other thing then is checking out what you believe, you know, really asking yourself, you know, I've said this in many videos, you know, we change our hair, we change our wives and husbands and cars and houses and clothes and, you know, memberships, we change lots and lots of things. But how often do we actually have a look at ourselves and go, well, let me just stop right now, and what do I believe about myself? What do I believe about my life? Could I really, you know, create this? Can I really make this happen in my life whilst I'm here on this planet? What do I believe, you know? And really ask yourself, you know, do I deserve this? Do I feel I can do this? Do I think I can achieve this? Or are you held back by limiting beliefs, which again, most of us are, that we've picked up along our journey. But right now, you know, as we are at the pace of change today, as you mentioned, and science and everything, the understanding of the mind-body relationship, the understanding of consciousness, which is the thing I want to come on to again in a minute, you know, when you start to really question what you believe about who you are and what your abilities are, and really be honest, you will find that you've got a load of limiting beliefs, a load of resistance, a load of fears. Everybody has, again, to some degree or another. Now, the more you can eliminate the stress, update your circuits, and realize who you are as a being, and bring that through into the physical world, and do something, you know, do something that you really want to do something that you enjoy, really think about it, and stop putting it off, and don't justify why you can't, really, you know, make something that's really passionate and really go for it. Then development really starts to, you know, you start to fly, you know, you turn into a person that's like an also-ran into somebody that's actually an inspiring person, somebody that's spreading good vibes, spreading love, spreading wisdom, you know, and inspiring other people to do the same. So that's the way I see it.
Right. Yeah. So what you're really saying is, or what I'm taking from that last offering, is actually you're asking people, are they serious about personal development or not? It feels that you're actually saying, or you're calling out and saying, look, are you serious about shifting yourself out of? And it might be good here to say, A lot of people hear me talk about the pain body or the shadow or the emotional being. It can be called the wound or the darkness or whatever, devil, you know, whatever you want to call it. For whatever reason, and we as humanity, and still the majority of humanity, are caught in this stressful place that you're talking about. Am I right? It's not just a few of us. You know, there's a vast amounts of our family, our tribe, our humanity that are caught in day-to-day conflict, stress, gossiping, drama, anxiety, blame, shame, hatred, resentment. You know, did I say resistance to what is? They're going around in competitive nature, you know, comparing everything, putting themselves down. You just said it beautifully. Exactly. Core unworthiness, self-doubt, limiting beliefs everywhere. And the thing is it's not that people out there, it's not just about putting down the personal development industry here. What it's about is that, are we together co-creating the safety, not just putting a damn price tag on everything that we think all of a sudden we can do good for and help people. But what I got from what you just shared is, what is humanity? How can we as a collective serve to awaken our fellow tribes and ourselves, you know, way beyond this constant price, like you said, price tag on this. And it's not just about the money here. Of course, we're in a world where we need money, but I'm thinking, do you know what I sometimes say, Chris, and this might take you into the bigger things, the consciousness and so on, is I often say that when you connect to this love that you're pointing to, whatever you want to call it, I call it love, for want of sometimes a better word, because unfortunately love's become marketable. And love, yeah, exactly. Love has become a product in itself, which I don't quite know how that's become possible, because you can't put a price on this energy. However, what I've noticed in this journey of exploration of love and truth is that if we really tap into the power of this that you're talking about, this love, this real development, this higher states of consciousness, this shift in who we really are as a being, which I want you to talk a little bit more about that, then that process, that is so powerful, so beautiful, that you not only want to share that and give that, and you want all of the people around you and everybody else to experience that. That often what I find is that this old energy that I just spoke to, or the pain body and everything I just pointed out, this self-doubt, self-unworthiness, is actually still has a hold, a clasp on the actual energy that we're all trying to like point to, and it seems that it's blocking it from actually doing what it wants to do anyway, which is, you know, expansive, open, all-inclusive, unity, you know, beyond even where we still are in our limited selves, because the personal development is functioning in that limited self. That's what I've got. Yeah,
there's a lot of good stuff there, mate. Yeah. Well, let's jump in with this, right? Let's jump in with this. I think if you want to develop, there are and if you want the fast track to development, right? Sounds like a marketing headline, doesn't it? I'll show you the fast track to development in 3 steps, right? They're just not easy steps. So the first one, if you really want to wake up, right, to realize who you are identity-wise, and you want to just think about it, you're not particularly into mantras or Indian meditations or going on a retreat or any of that caper. The question you want to ask yourself is, why are you conscious? As you're watching this now, listening to this now, as I'm looking at you and you're looking at me, why are you conscious, Simon? What is it that's making you conscious? And that's why I said on the Facebook thing, you know, consciousness, the biggest mystery of all. And it is. It's the biggest mystery in science. It's swept under the carpet because nobody's got a clue. There's not one person on the planet that knows what consciousness is, that knows what thoughts are, that knows why we are conscious. Nobody. Exactly. So it's like, you know, in the brain, when we're looking at things, and you see that in a brain scan, you can see the visual areas going off. And then when we hear things, you can see the auditory things firing off.
But nobody knows why we can actually be self-aware and reflect and be aware that I am talking to you. I'm aware that I'm talking to you. I'm aware that I'm moving my arms. I'm aware that I'm feeling my body. My awareness, my consciousness. How does that happen? And in science, it's called the hard problem. And the hard problem just means, how can something hard, like my brain, like a 4-pound bit of wet fat, how can that has lots of electrical connections and chemistry, all of a sudden create consciousness?
It's gone again. Oh, he's coming back.
And that's what that's something to contemplate.
Sorry, Chris, you froze and disappeared. Go back. The why consciousness. Just step back a tiny bit.
All right. So the question then is to ask yourself is firstly you realise that ask yourself, why are you conscious? Why do you have consciousness? As far as we know, scientists haven't got a clue. Nobody's got a clue why we are conscious. What the brain's got to do with consciousness, nobody knows. So like the mainstream belief, and it is a belief, you can ask any scientist anyway, it's just a belief, even though it might be written in stone, it's like the brain creates consciousness. How do you know that? Nobody knows that. It's not true.
Right.
The brain doesn't, just because we have a brain, it doesn't go ping, and we are self-aware human beings. That's not how it works, but that's what you think, and that's what everybody thinks. The brain is more like a satellite dish that that receives information from the environment, from the field, from God, from love, from the energy field, whatever we want to call it, and translates that through the 5 physical senses into awareness. But it doesn't start in the head. Saying consciousness comes from the brain is the equivalent to saying that all the actors and the music and the words are in the back of the television. You know what I mean? When you're watching the telly, it's like the program's in the back of the telly. You open up the back of the telly and you expect to see it there. No, that's coming through a series of filters and resistors and receivers, and it's coming from the environment. That's what the brain is. And if you contemplate that and think about that, firstly, it'll melt your mind. You're like, what the fuck, man? What does that mean? Jesus Christ, what does that mean, dude? You know what I mean? Like, okay. Then you start to, just contemplate on that, reflect on that, and realise that consciousness is everywhere, and you're a spectrum. You're a little grain of consciousness in the physical form as Chris, in the physical form as Simon, having a whirl in physical realm, So just contemplate that in yourself. You're not conscious because of your brain. Your brain doesn't create thoughts. Thoughts come through a field, and it translates through the brain, so forth and so on. So that's one thing to give you a big shift. The other
Wait, Chris, hold that thought. Sorry to all the live viewers, and if you're coming back to watch this, I'm sorry about the connection keeps dropping out. I think it just it dropped out a bit there, but it was quite funny because you was talking about consciousness and it coming out of the brain, and then you freezed, and then freezed again. So actually, that was also consciousness flipping out, I reckon. But yeah, carry on. Yeah, carry on there, because this is a beautiful inquiry, and if people are listening, these are great questions. I want you to go back a little bit, but I know that the thing about these conversations, I want you to go back a bit and continue saying about this. Is the key is that whenever I get into a conversation like this, and I think I'm trying to work it out, and I'm trying to contemplate that which the indescribable or can't be contemplated, is that it takes you to that place of where I always laugh and say, well, why is soap called soap? Why is a human called human? And it sort of takes you into silence, because in that mystery, in that not knowing, there is only not knowing. But I'd love you to definitely go into that. But is this just another conversation where we're not going to know? We don't know anything and we just have to accept that? Or is there a way to dance with this new awareness and knowing, and to explore it, enjoy it, and create from it? But anyway, don't let me change where you were going.
No, that's good. That's good. So I'll just reiterate, in case it was missed. The key point here is that the reason that you, I, and everybody else is conscious, that we have consciousness and awareness, is not because we've got a brain. The brain doesn't create consciousness. So this is what I'm saying. If you want something to really wake you up and jolt you into a new level of potential awareness, you just contemplate the fact you're not conscious because of your brain. Consciousness is not created by that. That's the equivalent of thinking that the actors and the movie is in the back of the television set.
Right.
The TV set's receiving signals and transferring them and translating that into sounds and pictures. That's what the brain is. It's more like a receiver. And at the leading edge of science, that's what we're being told, right?
Right, well, beautiful. Yeah, no, that's great. No, but that's great. So from the leading edge of science, we're being told that we're almost receivers, right? Transmitters and receivers of consciousness, and consciousness is outside of us. That's something outside of us that's communicated. And depending on what school of thought you look at, some say we're just a hologram, we're just receiving light, and that light's reflecting and being put out there. But then even today, just the other day, I was reading a book, and again, quantum theory, going into atoms and protons and neurons and photons. And again, it keeps going in and opening. And there's no description. So the key, so let us bring it back to, I want you to continue now, Chris, and bring it back to, so we know that consciousness is outside of us. The brain is there. It's receiving this information. We're taking that in, and then with our five senses, then what? We're deciding what. So what's your point on? So we know that that's a brain mounter. Then what? What's the next point?
Right. Okay. So that's something to contemplate. Just contemplating that in yourself is a very powerful thing to contemplate without thinking about anything to do with spirituality or meditation or any of that stuff. Just think about that in itself, right? The other two things, if you want a real shift, man, in your level of awareness, your level of motivation, and your level of who you are, the other shift is, okay, so you got a level of awareness, you go, in an ideal world, how would I like to live? How would I like to feel every day? What's the best feeling I've ever had? Well, you know it, and I know it, and every human being on the planet knows it. There's nothing more powerful than feeling love. Feeling love for yourself, feeling love for anybody that you see, feeling love. There's nothing more powerful than that. When you're deeply in love with yourself, with others, with your dog, whatever, you are in flow. You are in a state of flow, and you are where you're supposed to be. Now, you go, everybody would agree with that, yeah? There's nothing more powerful than that. But the resistance that comes up to stop you being in that state is vast. And then you realise, oh, man, I see all my autopilot reactions now. I know I want to be in a loving state all day, but I don't like the way he's looking at me. I don't like the way they sound. What a shit program. I don't like this food. Bam, 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 man. So it's very hard to stay in a state of love or, come from that place because you realise, oh my God, look at all my old programming taking me away from what I logically know is the best way to be. So then you realise you've got a bit of work to do, right? So that's number two. Then the third one, man, if you want to get a real shift, you're going to realise, and it's something in the West, I've seen this just today on your Facebook page actually, is in the West we don't think about this. We don't even want to know about this. But if you really want to get a bit of momentum on your life and a bit of a shift and a bit of a change, you've got to realise something. And it's that you are going to die, and you don't know when it is. And I am going to die, and I don't know when it is. It could be tonight, tomorrow, in 50, 70 years' time. But you don't know, and I don't know, and nobody knows. We don't know when we're going to draw that last breath. And we should make friends with death. We should make friends with it and honour it and go, whoa, man, I don't know whether it's because I'm middle-aged now or what, dude. Obviously, in your 20s, you're going to think, well, I'm not interested in that shit, even in your 30s, maybe. But, you get to 40-odd, and you're like, whoa, I'm halfway through if I'm doing well here, if I've got a bit of luck. You realise, man, you're going to die. And if you're in your 50s and 60s, you're going to probably die pretty soon, I know that sounds mean, but it should jolt you. It should scare you in a positive way. It should make you go, what the fuck am I doing in my life? And I'm not happy. I'm not doing what I want to do. You're going to die. It's coming. You don't know when. So if you want three things to wake you up, dude, and get you really rocking in the right direction and enjoying life, focus on, think about, reflect on consciousness, that you're not conscious because of your brain, that you're something much more than that. Realise that the best place, and and everybody knows it, is coming from a place of love, but you've got to do a lot of work to do that, so it's life's work probably. And then the third one is, remember, you're going to die, and you don't know when that is. You don't know when your last breath's coming. If you focus on that, man, bam, dude, you don't need any courses after that.
You don't need any courses yet. So basically, what you're saying is you're going to spend your whole life trying to get access in love, and just as the point of reaching it, you're going to die.
Yeah. Well, when they've interviewed those, old age people, in the 90s and centenarians and stuff, and they ask them, what would you have changed? And the only thing they really generally say is, to be more kind, to be more loving, to be more nice, not like to have more money and make more add more out.
But you know, but there's something simple here, and I always like simplicity as divinity. And whenever I talk about love, I always say to people that you really don't need. This is really, I think, even with the three things that you've just said, you really don't need all of this personal development stuff. And there's people out there, maybe some people watching now. It's not that it's not a great journey. I've been doing it. We've all been doing it in our own different ways. But based on the points that always come through on all of the paths you go on in the retreat, is the key to maybe where we might be shifting. I don't know. This is just what's coming up now. And I know we've covered a lot and thrown a lot in the soup here. And if you for all the live viewers out there, thank you for being with us. And yeah, there's a hell of a lot there to just dive in and dissect, and you know. But the key is, where are we evolving to? So even if we just accept that everything is divinely unfolding, so even all of the way that self-development's been and spiritual journeys have been, and everything that is being shared is all perfect. We don't want to change anything. It is what it is. We can't change the past anyway. It's done. It's gone. So for me, I'm interested in, where are we evolving to? You know, so even from a development stage, a personal development stage, if you want to call it personal development or transformation or whatever you want to call it, what is the key? So yeah, we can ponder those three beautiful things that you just shared, contemplating consciousness, how to connect ourselves into a state of love, the work that needs to be done around that, and really take that seriously if we really want to love, rather than getting in all of these massively dysfunctional relationships that are not actually coming from a pure place of love anyway, and all the other stuff associated to anything out of alignment of love. And then the third one, really embrace our death. But you know, there's a lot of people on this planet, Chris, that don't care about death. Meaning, when I say don't care about death, we're killing people 24/7. I mean, diseases, foods, pesticides, you know, all of these other mad ways that we're sort of creating human sacrifice. And then obviously we've got war, guns, abuse, physical, mental, and emotional. Where so really, do humans really care about death? And can they? I mean, I embrace death, and it makes me live a most bountiful, beautiful life. I get exactly what you're saying, but on another level, for maybe people viewing, it seems that humans don't really care about dying. What do you say to that?
Yeah, it very much depends on your, you know, when we talked earlier about the vertical development, it very much depends on the stage of consciousness that you're at. And I know I say stage, not state. You know, it's a stage is not a state. So, you know, like for a lot of us, probably people that are watching, and for me and you, you know, for most people, let's say, tricky to say with what's going on in the world right now, but let's just say most people where I am, right? And I'm living in Bristol on the southwest of England now, right? And I was in London. And so for most people in this country, let's say, we've got our base needs met. You know, we've got our food, we've got shelter, we've got some security. So the base needs are met. You know, the other needs about money, that could be a little bit trickier, but, you know, we've got some money. So the base stuff's met, you know. But when you're in a culture like, I suppose, with the immigrants, you know, all that stuff that's going on in the Middle East, and, you know, the immigrants fleeing the country where they've got nothing, you know, they've got nothing, you know, they're not bothered about anything but survival, absolute survival, you know, where am I going to get my next meal from, how am I going to protect my children, all that stuff. So when you're in that mode, well, you don't give a shit about development, you don't give a shit about expanding consciousness, you just want to survive, man. And like, you know, if you're in that mode, that's a tough mode to be. Now, a lot of people are in that mode without that extremity, you know, that extreme, you know. A lot of people are in that mode through financial stresses, you know, long work hours, family, you know, all the unconscious programming coming out and playing into your relationships, professional, personal, romantic, you know, all that's going on. So, as you climb, as you develop and go into those later stages, naturally there are less people there. You know, there are not so many people in those later developmental stages of consciousness as there are in those very early stages, you know. So when you get higher up the mountain, you can see how things fit together and how systems interact and how this relies on this and this relies on this. And then you realize who you are, that you're not individual and a separate little entity that's just here to survive, and make profit and you know, it's all about you. When you move beyond that, then you see and you understand the interconnectedness of everything and everybody. Then it's natural to want to improve yourself and work on yourself, because that helps others, and it's natural to help others. You know, it's a natural thing to do. It's not a thing that you would make a thing of, because you realize, you know, you're interconnected with a human being. Now, of course, you know, that takes work, man. You know, to get to the higher, later stages of consciousness. I mean, we're talking about worldwide, like, you know, a few percent of people. You know what I mean? We're not talking like, you know, we're talking 80% of the world are conventional and lower. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah,
they're into post-conventional stuff.
Right. So with that in mind, then is it all just happening as it should? And there's certain people that see things slightly differently. So, for example, you're seeing things slightly differently, and then you've got this personal development. But the way that the personal development is being, and everything, the way that everything's being, just has to be like that. Or do you see, because, you know, there's many talks on, you know, we're doing this work because ultimately we want to help others to become more aware. Love wants to give more love. Love can only love. It does what it does. Some people access that or not. What I feel is that we're seeing so many different dimensions within this one so-called planet, and we see everything. So we see from the darkest depths of how a human being can be, and how it can just beat another human, cold-blooded murder, can just batter animals, kill animals, just gun, blow things up, and, you know, can throw acid in another human's face, and can just do the most brutal of acts, even subtle ones, from, you know, mass killing and genocide, and, you know, you name it, right? So we see this. That's the, you know, and the depths of darkness are just infinite. And then you've got this idea that the light, if you want, without making it just about light and dark, is also, you know, eternally infinite unfolding, and you can step into and bask in the pure joy and glory of love and, you know, whatever, you know, openness and expansion and interconnectedness and interbeing, and just joy and real laughter and unity, and just honoring all diversity. And you can, and that world exists as well. It exists in the same space. And then, so then I suppose sometimes then you've got these talks that go on about the tipping point, which we've reached 0 point. There's going to be a whole new birth of human interaction and community and systems being born. So my question is, are you and I at this time just finding ourselves, and many people watching this talk, just finding ourselves in that space, in between that stage of evolution? And we, for some reason, like you said, we don't even know why, but we're getting to witness this collective. Because how I see it is, I like to do, which is what you've pointed to tonight on tonight's talk, is I like to look at the collective. Like, what if we're not just these individual beings? Who are we as the collective? What is the collective really wanting to birth through? And again, if we take out that we're not the ones in control, then I would ask the question: if evolution wants to flow through us and we're just these receptors and receivers, how can we get out of the way of all that suffering, stress, and so on, to allow ourselves to be this clean, transparent receiver, to allow the purity that wants to come through? But then the one thing I'm going to throw in there is, then do I get caught in the idea that then I'm saying, well, the dark is bad and the light is good, and none of that should happen, and we should all be in this ascended, amazing place of love and joy and happiness and la la la?
Yeah, and I think that's a nice little link, because I think that links to one of the things that I put on the Facebook. You know, it's like this, the myth of enlightenment. You know, what is enlightenment? You know, so like, I think, not that enlightenment's mentioned that much in the personal development world, really, because it doesn't, you know, nobody really knows what it is or what it means. It's sort of meaningless to us. But I think there is a myth when we have this notion of enlightenment, that we're going to become enlightened, awakened beings with no problems, and we just glide through life like we're like made of, you know, light angels hovering around, kissing people, and everything we touch turns to gold, you know, and we just don't have any problems, fears, doubts, and worries. That's you know, that's that's obviously not, well, it's not obvious, but that doesn't happen. Who do you know? Who do you know around in the world that's doing that? You know what I mean? So that's not really true. What happens as you grow through the stages, you actually become more sensitive because you're becoming more aware and more open. You can see more of your own madness. You can see more of your family's madness. You can see more of your friends' madness, and that can be very painful, man. That can be an upsetting place. I've been there, you know, many times myself. It's just like, oh my God, you know, I'm seeing what I'm doing, and that's crazy shit, you know. Like, wow, my childhood patterns. Oh my God, I thought I had that licked. You know what I mean? Blah blah blah. So, but what does happen as you grow with that extra awareness is you also grow the resilience to deal with it. You know, you with that awareness comes that resilience and understanding and wisdom to be able to deal with that higher level understanding of the complexity of everything.
Right.
So, obviously, you know, we don't know everything. You know, we don't know everything, and you know, I like to make development practical and real because we, you know, we can wax lyrical about these higher stages and all this stuff, but the reality is, what's life like, man? What's your life like? You know, how are you? Are you content? You know, are you peaceful? Are you happy? Are you healthy? Are you doing what you want? Are you enjoying the ride? If you ain't answering yes to that, then perhaps it's time to have a little look at yourself and see, you know, what's going on. You know, you've got individual self here with your history to do something with. So, you know, at the end of the day, there's so much going on, isn't there, in the world that if you know, it's nice to be informed but not overwhelmed. You know, I got into it a bit recently with the whole immigrant thing coming in and really got into that, man. And you know, I'm quite a sensitive soul, you know, like, it's you know, I felt the pain, man. It's an unpleasant thing, and it's not a bad thing to feel that pain, you know what I mean? Because it gives you that.
Yeah, hold that thought while we bring Chris back.
And realise that, you know,
Chris, hold that thought. I want you to, what you were saying was lovely, because I think that whenever we talk about this shadow, we talk about not embracing the pain. And what I want to say is, I want you to continue, because what we're pointing to here is lovely. I think now we're getting to really the juice. Not that none of it's the juice, it's all the juice. But what I feel that's coming through is that I hear what you're saying about, follow the bliss and what you're doing. Are you loving it? But there's also another layer, and I don't know how long we have left, because I know we could wax lyrical for hours. But the thing is, there's also this misconception of doing what you want to do, right? Because this doing this good. And you just said something lovely. You checked out the immigrants, you felt the pain, you felt that. And it's not about not feeling the pain. It's about feeling that we all feel the pain. This is the key point, is that we are all interconnected on some level. Like you said, when you look up a bit higher on the mountain and look over, you see that we're all connected. So you do also see that what we do does have an impact on the whole. You know, if the immigrants are all getting kicked out, can you hear me okay? Yeah, if the immigrants are all getting kicked out, or, you know, the coral reefs are getting ripped out, or deforestation's happening, or whatever, these things do affect us, even if we just get to feel them and see them, even if we think in the West that we're not being affected by them, we are. You know, the orangutans getting wiped out because of palm oil, and all of us utilizing materials to make products that we hardly use. And while, you know, 1.2 billion women are in slave labor and dying at the age of 30, you know, this affects us. You know, we feel this. And it's just like when 9/11 happened, or any other mass suffering of our fellow individuals, we feel it, even if we know we don't know them. So there is an interconnectedness that takes place. So the thing that come up for me as you were speaking was, I don't mind telling everyone, do what you want to do. If you do what you love, follow, you know, you're feeling good and so on. But sometimes I feel still people's idea of what feels good and joy is also a little bit, what's the word? Misinterpreted, meaning that, you know, people think, okay, yeah, well, I want to do what I want to do. I don't care. I'm here. I want to make sure I'm happy and joyful and so on, but at the detriment of other people. And this is a longer conversation and a thin line. So what I'm pointing to is, if you step into that place of love, that real step in that place of love, and experience life just a little bit about what you're pointing to, about that embracing death, really asking who you are, what you're here for, then that plugs you in to a dimension, a much, you could say, more expansive, you know, this is where you plug in to the bliss of being something greater than yourself. And it doesn't mean that you need to some people don't even know what that means, but just, it almost means serving that which you can't even describe. It means actually, it actually means trusting in the unknowable or indescribable. It means trusting that, okay, I don't know what I'm here for, what I'm here to do, but I know that when I serve, when I help another, when I give love, when I really bring happiness to myself, look at, like you just said, all the crap within me, and I really do the work, like what you're pointing to, then I know that that is serving the collective. Does that make sense? Am I making sense here?
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So for me, that is the deeper joy that I feel. I don't know. I feel that, even, tell me if I'm wrong. I don't want to put words in my mouth. Like when you're frustrated and you're angry, or whatever you feel about the sort of the dishonest or the slightly, what's the word, deceiving information that you're seeing.
Yeah.
What I feel, Chris, and what I get from you is that actually, you know that that's also causing and part and parcel of the same energy that's causing that suffering on the planet that we're all witnessing on such a large scale, or at least that's how I see it, and I'm maybe projecting that onto you. So when I'm talking about authenticity, transparency, love, integrity, like you said, getting through all of that cortisol and that stress and that pain body and that fear, and really stepping into who we are as conscious living beings, that for me plugs me into the solution that really does wipe out all of this, bullshit, which we called it. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, that, again, I like to keep things sort of level-headed, down to earth. What can we do? What makes a difference? And as you said earlier, so many people today are so stressed. Stress is on the increase.
Stress is on the increase. As we take this last interlude,
I've got a team. There are 1.25 million cases of work-related illness in the UK, and 40% of those were from anxiety, worry, and stress. That's like madness. That's like, sick, whatever it is, for 500,000 people off work just last year from stress and anxiety. Well, there's something seriously wrong there, man. There's something seriously wrong. We see that around all the time. So, bottom line is, you've got to know where you're at, and we can talk about these higher stages, but most people are not at higher stages. You probably, we're all somewhere. You know what I mean? And it's not that, necessarily hires are better or anything like that. It's certainly increased awareness, but you have more influence the more awake and aware you are. You have more influence on yourself because you've got more understanding, more awareness. With more influence, comes more choice, with that extra awareness. But, you have to earn that. You have to earn those vertical stages. It just doesn't just happen, mainly because, well, there's probably all sorts of reasons, but the pace of life and stress and all the rest of it, society's not set up in any way, shape or form for expansion of consciousness. Society's set up to constrict your consciousness to a conventional person that goes to a job to pay the bills, and that's it. You carry on doing your life and hope for the best, and you stay asleep. And, I think, when we realise that most of what all of us do is an unconscious play, most of our thoughts and feelings and actions are coming from those unconscious scripts and programs, and then, as you awaken to those higher levels, you realise that actually, my God, most people are not conscious at all. Most people don't even have any conscious awareness. It looks like they're conscious because they're interacting, but there's no real deep level of awareness. It's just, the body, the mind, the patterns, the automation playing out in the environment that they're in with the jobs and the families, and that's cool. If that's the way
this is a great question, because obviously we're just two human beings, and you and I could die and life's going to continue, right? We could die tomorrow and life's going to continue. But based on that, we're here and we seem to be having this conversation. So something wants to, some energy is coming for us. We've been talking for an hour and a half. We've shared a lot of different things, a lot of theories, a lot of ideas. So if we just both take a few breaths in and then so people have given their time, like you said earlier, is precious. They might have sat with us for an hour. What's been the point of this conversation?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess the point for me, is just sharing my experience, my thoughts to, at really the very best, it's just to give people something to reflect on. Another opinion based on my experience and what I do, which is work in this field of, performance and mental health and all that, psychological health and all that, and just for people to have a contemplate on some of the things that we've discussed. I think I just want to finish. If we're going to finish, I just want to say though that we all have power. Our thoughts, our intentions, they are powerful. They're not just flat. They do at a very deep level of consciousness. They are packets of information. And as you mentioned earlier, as you become more pure, is the word you use, but I like to use the word more coherent, so all of you is moving in the right direction. You're not having your stress centers firing up. You're not full of doubt. You're not full of lack of self-worth and all that stuff anymore. You've cleared that. You've moved beyond that into greater sense of self, a greater sense of identity. Then you have much more power. Then you probably can really start to influence things in the field. You know what I mean? But you gotta do the work. It's not like bloody law of attraction, wishing it and thinking it and feeling it and boom. It's great to sell products, man. When you can have 5 minutes of listening to something, you can even listen to it in your sleep, and it automatically creates the life you want. You know what I mean? I love that. Defo. Sign me up.
But thank you for clarifying that, because what we're saying is to everybody watching and also to ourselves, because we're all in this together, is that actually we really are powerful beings. Yeah. We really do have serious power. Yeah. But what Chris is pointing to and what I'm hearing is that this is, how serious do you want to play in this field? How serious do you really want to be a co-creator of your reality or the collective? Because you do have to do the work. And reading a book here and there and doing little things, that's all good. Like Chris said, it doesn't matter what level you want to play at. But this may be as a message to those who are really want change, those that are really want to step into this, that there is a way of doing that. And I think that's what Chris is pointing to. One of the ways that he's found it from his experience. That's what I point to with everything that I do. And he's saying he's using this gamma mindset. You can follow, you can check out some more of what he's up to and the way that he does his reprogramming, you could say. I don't want to put words into your mouth, Chris, but like a reprogramming. And you can explore that. You can email him. You can ask him questions if you've been inspired by what he's sharing today. Of course, you can go on your own exploration. It's all out there now. But I like how what you just said there, because for me, I do feel that we're powerful beyond measure. I do feel that we're stepping into that deeper awareness, or at least that awareness is becoming more of a conversation as opposed to, just talking about bloody how much you paid for your house last month, or how fast your car is on the drive, and if your new watch is doing any good. And if we get out of the way of being deflected, I think probably why me and Chris even still in connection is that we're interested in what's capable in this body, right? Why we're alive, Chris.
Yeah. I think if we're coming to a close, there are two things I'd like to say, and one's a quote, and it's one of my favourite quotes, and one's a piece of advice I was given, which is the best piece of advice I've ever had. And the quote is, it's by a guy called Terence McKenna. I don't know whether you're familiar with him. He was a psychonaut, as they call him, an ethnobotanist, went down to the jungle in the 70s and the 80s, explored all the hallucinogens and all that stuff. But, pretty heavy duty guy. He's not with us anymore. He's dead now, But one of the quotes I heard him say once is that, we spend all this time in our lives, trying to get more and more and higher and climbing that ladder to the next thing, to the next best thing and the next rung and the next rung. We're climbing that ladder. We're trying to get more and more and more. But if we stood still long enough, we'd realise we're on an escalator and we're moving anyway, man. It's coming through us. Like we've mentioned a few times in this talk, it's coming through us. Something's coming through you and me. We are part of that consciousness, and it's coming through us. And the more we can remove the resistance, then that flow and that we feel on purpose. We feel like we're flowing with the grand self. You know what I mean? That's what's going on. So that's something. And then the other thing, some years ago, I'd been to Brazil a couple of times and Peru, and I was doing all the shamanic ceremonies, the ayahuasca, and I'd really delved in, man, like big. And I got to a stage, probably about, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago or something, and I just thought, what the hell is going on, man? Like, what is life? I really got to a point of like, I'd had so many like huge cosmic type of experiences that it made this life sort of like, what's the point, man? There's so much pain and suffering. Like, this is bullshit, man. This is bullshit. What's the point in this? I think I'd rather check out and go and cruise on the, in the love zone. You know what I mean? And I had the opportunity to speak to this psychiatrist. He's a guy called Rick Strassman, and he wrote a couple of books. One was called DMT, the Spirit Molecule. I was very interested in that because DMT is the active ingredient in ayahuasca that creates the cosmic consciousness type of experiences.
And we have DMT. We all have DMT within us, right?
Yeah, in our pineal gland. Yeah. So anyway, that's sort of by the by. But basically, I was my own development. I got to a place where I'm rocky, man. I'm feeling like my foundations are a little bit sandy here, and I've been in that place a couple of times before. I know that's a time of big growth, but sometimes that can feel really uncomfortable, and really shaky when your whole world is like, you're not sure what's real, what's not real, what the hell, it's a place of time, a bit of downtime. And he said to me, Chris, when you've experienced what you've experienced, there's only one thing you can do. And I'm like, well, yeah, okay. And he said, you find out what you love to do, and you do it with all your might. And dude, I'll tell you something, man, he told me, and it was in an email, and I read it, and I was back, and I'm like, that's it, man, yeah. Once you really grasp it a little bit, you've got to get a level of awareness. You find out what you love to do and do it with all your might, because what are you waiting for?
Right, which is what Joseph Campbell was talking about when he said, follow your bliss.
Yeah, and that was it, man. That's all I needed, and I always come back to that, when I'm wobbling or, having a bit of a, couple of midlife crises or something like that, it's like, actually, am I doing what I love to do? Absolutely I am. Would I want to do anything else? Absolutely not. And I'm like, yeah.
But it's key. But it's also key, isn't it, that you really check in with that from an authentic place, because somebody the key. It's a thin line when, for example, I know a lot of people that say they're doing what they love, and when you sit with them for a bit longer and listen to them, they're actually really, really unsatisfied and unhappy.
Yeah.
So I just want to maybe not to discredit anything you said there, because it's totally, I hear that, but it's almost, you said it lovely earlier, where you've got to really get off the layers first to know is it you that's really wanting what it is that you want.
Yeah.
I don't know if that yeah, because I just find that people say that for example, people say they're working in a job they really like, and you speak to them a couple of years later and they say they were kidding themselves and they didn't like it at all, and they spent the last 5 years doing a load of things they didn't like. So I suppose it depends on the individual's level of authenticity and transparency, and how self-trusting they are, or how real they're being with themselves.
And how aware they are, all of those things that you just said. But if you don't have that awareness, that self-awareness in the first place, then you can be fooling yourself all the time. You've got many defense mechanisms, to stop yourself, feeling a certain way. But I think, you know, inevitably it's a simple question, you know, if you're being really, really honest with yourself, are you doing what you really like to do? And you might be just be, you know, the honest answer might be just like, no, and I don't believe I can, or I don't feel I can, or how the hell am I going to do this? This is what I really want to do. And it can seem like really tricky and hard, and you can hear somebody say it, and you can say, well, it's all right for you. And you're like, well, okay, you know. So you've got to be honest with yourself. But if you're not, and this is only my opinion, you know, like it's like life's life. You got your own path. You know, you walk your own path. But for me, I keep coming back to that, Simon. It's like, man, the day I answer no is the day I'll change what I'm doing, because life's short at the end of the day. You know, like I say, I don't know whether that's like a midlife thing or what, but like, you know, you don't know when, you don't know what. Yeah. So you're better off, you know, doing what you love while you're here, and do your very best to make that happen, and feel content and peaceful and awake. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it. No, I like it. It's get aware first, find out what you love, and then follow that bliss. The journey is the destination, and rock and roll along the way. Chris, I think that's a beautiful place. Unless you feel anything that, you know, I think you just summarized it a few times there, and we come back, and I know that we're both just enjoying the conversation. But I'm always mindful of our beautiful viewers, and I'm also we're coming up to about an hour and 40 minutes, which is a nice time. I feel quite complete without us going. You know, we can dissect it, go around again and go around again, but ultimately, I feel that we've been on a. I got a tiny bit of a headache during this call, like in the back of my head. Maybe it was the consciousness coming in. So I also wanted to, just be sure that I'm also giving this conversation the presence and the listening that's needed. But this is our second conversation. We haven't spoken for a long time, so it seems it seems like we had a lot to throw out there and share.
Yeah, and you know, we're talking about big topics tonight, man. You know, we're talking about, you know, creation and who are we, and enlightenment, and you know, and stress and life and all that. You know, it don't get any bigger than that. What else are we going to talk about? You know, UFOs and stuff with consciousness. It doesn't get any bigger than that. So we're in the deep end, dude. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you still got to eat, you still got to go to the toilet, you still got to breathe, you still got to get some money, and you just got to do your thing. But, you know, like, doing your best and, you know, awakening your mind is going to help you, you know?
Yeah, totally. And, okay, lovely. Well, you're welcome. I'm going to, when I end, you can stay on. I'll just say goodbye to you. I'm just going to wrap it up for, I think are you still with me? Are you gone? Hello, he's gone. I love some of the faces that, are you still there?
Yeah. You just froze there, but I'm still here.
I love, you froze, I froze. But some of the freezing that's happened tonight when you froze on the screen has just been genius, hilarious. Just been the best. If we could have captured all of those and put them in a picture frame, that would have been hilarious. That would have been some for your next generations. So this is to say to everyone, I love the term enlightenment when actually, if we don't get too caught up on the word enlightenment and it means that some far off destination, actually just means for me becoming lighter, meaning not just lighter in terms of the light in the room, but actually you become more weightless. You lose a lot of stuff that is attached to you, a lot of thoughts, theories, beliefs. So you become lighter, so you become enlightened. Yeah. And in that, when you're lighter, you naturally seem to radiate and emit and receive different layers of light, a much more, you could say, cleaner light, a more clearer, transparent mirror. So I like to keep it simple as well, and just look at it like the more baggage you drop off yourself, the more weightless you become. The more weightless you become, the more enlightened you feel. But that's just my little way of looking at it.
Good for me. I like your thinking.
So listen, I'm going to say thank you to Chris. I'm going to just say to everybody out there in the world watching these beautiful conversations, thank you so much for your time. Thank you to the live viewers that decided to take it. We were going to do some questions, but the question and answer thing didn't really work for me at the beginning. And
we can put them on the Facebook page if there's questions. I can post them on there, and we'll do it, sort it out.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. If there's any questions you have after this, or anything you want to present to us, and put it into either the Facebook event page or even underneath the Google Plus page that you're watching this video on, or even in the YouTube comments, wherever. If there's feel free to always drop it in. If it's to Chris, I can pass it on to him, and if it's to me, I'll throw it back to you, or as and when I can. As I already said to you guys, Patreon, if you love these conversations, you want to see them evolve, and you want to see me continue to create these conversations and other videos that I've got in the pipelines, then go over to Patreon, patreon.com/Simon on the Sofa. Chris's link to his website is below the YouTube video, or be on the website, simononthesofa.com. And yeah, just to have these conversations wherever you are, honoring your time, honoring your presence. You are a magnificent being, an incredible being, a unique being. No other being on the planet ever manifested in form like you. And so wherever you are, keep it simple, like Chris said. Keep it simple. Yeah, keep it simple. Let's keep it simple. Do what you got to do, and ask those lovely big questions. Take care, guys. Have an amazing evening, daytime, whenever you're watching this. Thank you, Chris.